Okay, today it's Ruth. So the book of Ruth has 4 chapters, and it's just a short little book, but there's a lot in it. I like this book. Um, Before I get started, I'll go down the little list here of things about Ruth. Uh, Ruth turns out to be another Gentile bride, so she's another type of the church, and Boaz is another type of Christ. He marries Ruth, and he's what's called a kinsman redeemer. And this ties back into their law of a relative marrying a widow. So, well, I'll explain as we go. But anyway, she makes a long journey with her mother in law back to Israel, and she's a very loyal person. So we see these traits here. They have a son later who ends up being also in the line of King David and the Messiah, Jesus. So it's all in here. There is something about a threshing floor, and that's sort of related to that whole wheat and chaff thing, separating in the parables and judgment of God. So a lot of people like to say that's a type of the rapture, but it's not. I mean, there's nothing that connects, but they always want to find something. But okay, anyway, so here I'll just jump in. So Ruth chapter 1. Now, it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to dwell in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, the name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. So Ephrathites, that's where they were from, of Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth, and they dwelt there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so the woman survived her 2 sons and her husband. So she's just left with her 2 daughter-in-laws who are, Gentiles from the land of Moab. All right, so her husband died and her 2 sons. And apparently the sons never had sons, so she didn't have any grandchildren. Okay, now, then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return, each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband." So she's wishing them to, just stay with your family here, get remarried, and be happy, So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "Surely we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go, for if for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband tonight and should also bear sons, would you wait for them till they were grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, and Ruth clung to her. Now, okay, this goes back to this rule, like that if, let's say, Naomi had another son, and then this seemed to be whether he was already married or not, like, you know how it was back then, right? So he would be obligated to take them both as wives and have a son, or at least, I guess, yeah, each one, and have a son, to name that son after the name of their dead husbands to carry on the name. And then the other children would be named after that couple. So it was in their law. I read that already, but it was in there. So that's how that was supposed to go. So otherwise, and here in this case, there was nobody, and she didn't have anybody else, no more sons. So there was no way to carry the name on. And she was just saying, well, what can we do? Go, and I wish you well, and, be happy, and, what can we do? Right. So that was, and she was upset anyway. But so that was the thing, just to give the background of that law. Like that's what was going on in the background here. Okay. And she said, "Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me." So, she was truly a loyal daughter-in-law, and she was following the rules of all this stuff, and you could see it in this line right here, and this, she wanted that. She didn't want her homeland stuff, right? So when she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her, which means she stopped trying to argue her out of it. That's what it means. But they had that way in the Middle East, of haggling about things. So she kind of realized, okay, that's what she wants. I'll stop making another option for her. I'll just leave it and let her come along. Now, the two of them went until they came to Bethlehem. And it happened when they had come to Bethlehem, that all the city was excited because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" But she said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara." Now, Naomi means pleasant, and Mara means bitter. Okay? "For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me?" So, she's really distraught that she lost her husband and she lost her sons, and, she doesn't have any grandkids, like her line is ending, and that's it, which, I mean, and my situation, I'm like that and I'm okay with it. But back then was a different situation. So, okay. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter in law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. They really want you to know, look, she's a Gentile here. Okay, now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. And when I looked that up last time I read this, I forgot now when it was. I always had it in my mind for some reason that this was in the fall. I always picture this in a fall setting, but when I looked it up, I think it was not fall, it was maybe late spring, even something like that. I don't know when barley harvest is, so, and I don't remember what it was when I looked it up, so you might have to do that. Check it out. I always like those background details though. Okay. There was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth, of the family of Elimelech. His name was Boaz. So Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him, in whose sight I may find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." Then she left and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Okay, now I got to explain this. This goes back to their rule, like strangers in the land, orphans, widows, were able to do this, follow up and glean from the harvest whatever was left so that they wouldn't be hungry. Okay, that was a rule in the law. It was one of those caring for the poor type of laws that I probably read about 25 times so far as I've been going through this, but that's where this ties in. Okay, that's what she was doing. So that's the deal. Now, behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered him, "The Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" So the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered and said, "It is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. And she said, 'Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves.' So she came and has continued from morning until now, though she rested a little in the house." Then Boaz said to Ruth, "You will listen, my daughter, will you not? Do not go to glean in another field, nor go from here, but stay close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field which they reap, and go after them. Have I not commanded the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink from what the young men have drawn." So she fell on her face, bowed down to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" And Boaz answered and said to her, "It has been fully reported to me all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother and the land of your birth, and have come to a people whom you did not know before. The Lord repay your work, and a full reward be given you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge." Then she said, "Let me find favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me and have spoken kindly to your maidservant." though I am not like one of your maidservants. Now Boaz said to her, at mealtime, come here and eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar. So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed parched grain to her, and she ate and was satisfied, and kept some back. And when she rose up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. Also let grain from the bundles fall purposely for her. Leave it that she may glean, and do not rebuke her. So he was being very kind to her, And I think she was thinking something herself here along the way, but it's not for sure. It's just I'm thinking she's thinking. Anyway, so she gleaned in the field until evening and beat out what she had gleaned. And it was about an ephah of barley. Then she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. So she brought out and gave to her what she had kept back after she had been satisfied. And her mother-in-law said to her, where have you gleaned today? And where did you work? Blessed be the one who took notice of you. So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, the man's name with whom I work today is Boaz. Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, blessed be he of the Lord, who has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead. And Naomi said to her, this man is a relative of ours, one of our close relatives. Ruth the Moabitess said, he also said to me, you shall stay close by my young men until they have finished all my harvest. And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, and that people do not meet you in any other field. So she stayed close by the young women of Boaz to glean until the end of barley harvest and wheat harvest, and she dwelt with her mother-in-law. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, my daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you? Now Boaz, whose young women you were with, is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Therefore, wash yourself and anoint yourself, put on your best garment, and go down to the threshing floor, but do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. Okay, now one more thing before I go on. I had to look that up some time back. What's the deal with the threshing floor? This is with their harvest. They, as far as all of the details I know about it anyway, they get the wheat or the barley or whatever the grain is, they get it in, and there's this floor, and so they take the grains. This is what I heard, okay? They throw it up in the air when the wind blows, and the outer shell, which is the papery chaff part, blows away because the wind blows it away. And then the grain falls to the ground because it's heavier. And they might beat it first. I don't know the whole process, but the long of the short of it or whatever is that other part gets eliminated. And the good part lands on the ground. The heavy part, because of gravity, it gets pulled down to the ground. So it's a threshing floor So again, I don't know all the details of it, but that's at least part of it. So they sort it out that way, and that's why they're parables, talking about the wheat and the chaff, and it gets sorted out and separated. So anyway, then they gather the good part and use that to make bread. So keep this part in mind. The kernel of the wheat or whatever it is falls to the ground, okay? All right. And there is something about this tying in with judgment in the parables. So I think there's a connection to all that, but okay, it's coming. Then it shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies, and you shall go in, uncover his feet, and lie down, and he will tell you what you should do. Okay, all right, now, so it's sort of one of these missions, you know. All right, and she said to her, all that you say to me, I will do. So she went, and I think they kind of like each other, you know, but it's a little bit because he's somewhat older. So anyway, it's all going to come up. So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law instructed her. And after Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was cheerful, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. And she came softly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. So apparently that time was different. I don't know why, but he did, at least they would sleep there by the grain on the threshing floor. Again, there must be a reason for that. I don't know why. I didn't look up all that. But anyway, that's what the deal was here. Now it happened at midnight that the man was startled and turned himself, and there a woman was lying at his feet. And he said, who are you? Okay, so I think there is some symbolism here, okay, because again, he's a type of Christ and she's a type of the bride, the church. All right. So, and you know, since God is God and we're not, we bow to God. So she was at his feet. So it's sort of symbolic of this. And it kind of goes together with the grain falling to the floor as well. It's just that kind of picture, you know, falling to the floor. Okay. So he notices she's there. So she answered, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. So she comes right up and puts that on the table, right, about the deal with the kinsman redeemer thing. And, okay, so she says this. I have heard somewhere lately somebody tried to make this out to be a seduction. And, you know, I get so tired of people and they're just, you know, their minds are in a, you know, a place that's, let's just say, not appropriate. I mean, there's nothing in here that anything like that is going on. Okay, this is what was happening, exactly what it said. Okay, nothing more. All right. But okay, people and their minds, I don't know. Okay. Then he said, Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you request, for all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman. Now it is true that I am a close relative. However, there is a relative closer than I. Stay this night, and in the morning It shall be that if he will perform the duty of a close relative for you, good, let him do it. But if he does not want to perform the duty for you, then I will perform the duty for you, as the Lord lives. Lie down until morning. Okay, this was just the way their law was, okay? Even though they might have wanted this, if there was a closer relative, that was the obligation. But Boaz is a clever man, so he has something up his sleeve here, how it's going to work out. Okay, so she lay at his feet until morning, and she arose before one could recognize another. Then he said, do not let it be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Also, he said, bring the shawl that is on you and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 ephahs of barley and laid it on her. Then she went into the city. When she came to her mother-in-law, she said, is that you, my daughter? Then she told her all that the man had done for her. And she said, these 6 ephahs of barley he gave me, for he said, to me, do not go empty-handed to your mother-in-law. Then she said, sit still, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out. For the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter this day. Okay. Now, Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, come aside, friend, sit down here. So he came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. So they sat down. Then he said to the close relative, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold a piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. Now I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you. Okay, now keep in mind, did we see anything earlier mentioned about a plot of land? No, right? So what's the deal, right? Well, I'll tell you what I think after this. And he said, I will redeem it, this closer relative, right? Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. Okay, so like he would have to marry her and have a son for the name of the dead husband, that whole thing. And like that comes with the land. Like that's all a package deal. You can't take only part of it. You have to take the whole thing or nothing. That's how it was. So that's the deal. So he tells him this, see, and he kind of makes it look like this is the drawback. All right. And the close relative said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. So he would have done it, but now that there's an obligation, and instead of gaining, he might lose something in his inheritance over it, he's not so interested in it anymore. And little does he know that what he thought was a burden was the actual prize of the whole thing. And that's what Boaz was hoping he would do, right? Say, oh, no, never mind, I can't take it. And there may not have been any land, but if he would have come with the Ruth thing right away. Who knows how he would have answered? And this was better. So somehow it was better. I mean, maybe there was land, and maybe this would have been better as if there was no land. He would still have to do that, and there wouldn't be any land to, but if he buys the land, it's still an exchange. So he may gain or lose nothing then. So what would have been better back then? I don't know, but somehow Boaz figured it out that this was the right way to go about it, and it worked. So, okay, now this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging to confirm anything. One man took off his sandal and gave it to the other, and this was a confirmation in Israel. So remember that thing about the man who had his sandal removed and all this other stuff, and it's sort of a shame. Well, I guess it got a little cleaned up because now it was just a confirmation. The guy just handed him his sandal. It's okay, we can all be happy and go about our way, no hard feelings, and that was the deal. Like, that was how they confirmed it, and that was it. And this was because of, like, him not taking the wife and bearing a son for the name of the dead husband. Like, that's why the sandal would come off. So it was a very nice, peaceful exchange. Yeah, you go ahead. Here's my sandal. Okay, take care, and that was it. So, okay. Therefore, the close relative said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself." So he took off his sandal. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's and Malon's from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Malon, I have acquired as my wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren, and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day." So he makes it look real official. It's just about that, and hoping this guy has no idea what kind of a prize he just lost. It's just kind of funny, I can imagine after the transaction, he turned around and was like, whew, wiping his forehead, right? That worked out. Anyway, and all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, "We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel, and may you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman." And it turns out he does get pretty famous, I mean, we're reading about him right now. So, and there's more. Okay. Now, so Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative, and may his name be famous in Israel. And may he be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age, for your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him." Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. Also the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, "There is a son born to Naomi." And they called his name Obed. Okay, now watch this. Obed, he is the father of Jesse, the father of David, and that's King David. So this is the grandfather of King David. Okay, so yeah, there's some fame that came in there and some blessings. And all this from a wonderful story about a woman who was loyal and faithful both to God and his rules for family and that kind of thing. So, all this wonderful stuff happened, and everybody was blessed and happy as a result. And, it's one of those, and they lived happily ever after and all that wonderful stuff. So now, and then this part, now, this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. And Ram begot Amminadab. Amminadab begot Nahshon. And Nahshon begot Salmon. Now remember Salmon, he's the one who married Rahab at the fall of Jericho. And she was a type of the church, and she got rescued from the last minute, and nobody else got rescued. Remember, they all perished in the judgment. So anyway, that came at the end. Well, anyway, so Rahab is who he married. So all these people are in the line. Salmon married Rahab. They had Boaz. So that's where Boaz came from. Salmon begot Boaz. And Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David. So we have, Salmon and Rahab, Boaz and Ruth. Okay, they have Obed, who has Jesse, who has David, who becomes King David. So that's a neat thing, all these people are in the line, and it's just a special thing. So anyway, that's what happened there, and that's Ruth. Okay, that's the whole story of Ruth. I made all the connections I could to anything that was related to it. So that's Ruth. Now I will come back in a minute, and I'm going to do the beginning of Samuel. Okay, in just a minute here. I can't remember if there's anything else about Ruth I needed to say, but I don't think so. Okay. All right, I'll be right back.